Hare Krishna, devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad-Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 1. It's actually a recording of a class given by Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, 1974. Canto 1, Chapter 16, Text 20. Please kick up your the volume of your listening devices. Sometimes the recording volume is low here. Hare Krishna. Without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna.
सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय, रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तविंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जय। All glories to the Asmat. All glories to the Asmat. All glories to the Asmat. Thank you very much. Read that. Man, where is book? One copy.
pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi, maika-pādam, ātmānaṁ, vṛṣalair, bhokṣyamāṇam, surādīn, hṛta-yajña-bhāgān, prajā, svin, maghavaty, avarṣati, pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi, maika-pādam, ātmānaṁ, vṛṣalair, bhokṣyamāṇam, surādīn, hṛta-yajña-bhāgān, prajā svin, maghavaty, avarṣati, pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi, maika-pādam, ātmānaṁ, vṛṣalair, bhokṣyamāṇam, surādīn, hṛta-yajña-bhāgān, prajā svin, maghavaty, avarṣati, pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi, maika-pādam, ātmānaṁ, vṛṣalair, bhokṣyamāṇam, surādīn, hṛta-yajña-bhāgān, prajā svin, maghavaty, avarṣati,
pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi, maika-pādam, ātmānaṁ,
by three legs. Nyūnaṁ, diminished. Oh.
Pādair, nyūnaṁ, śocasi.
Pādair, by three legs. Nyūnaṁ, diminished. Śocasi, if you are lamenting for that. My. Maika-pādam, only one leg. ātmānaṁ, own body. Or, vṛṣalair, by the unlawful meat-eaters, bhokṣyamāṇam, to be exploited, aho, in sacrifice, surādīn, the authorized demigods, hṛta-yajña-bhāgān, devoid of sacrificial, bhāgān, share, prajā, the living entities, hṛta, increasing, svin, weather, maghavaty, in famine and scarcity, avarṣati, because of rainlessness. I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on 1 leg only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat-eaters will exploit you? Or are you in sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings, because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for the living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought?
These are the symptoms of this Kali Yuga. The first thing is that I have lost my 3 legs, now standing on 1 leg only. At the present moment in the Kali Yuga, practically there is no religion. So the bull is the representative of religious ceremony. So he is saying that now I have lost my 3 legs. I am standing only 1 leg. So in the Satyuga, people were very religious, full, 4 parts full. In the Dwapara Yuga, then 1 part was missing, only 3 parts. Then Treta Yuga, Sattva Treta, then Dwapara. But in the Kali Yuga, the 1 part of religiosity, that is also diminishing. This is one of the symptoms. And another symptom, or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat-eaters will exploit you? The unlawful meat-eaters, they will eat cows and bulls. This is predicted in this verse. The Srimad Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago. So at that time the prediction is there that in the Kali Yuga the meat-eaters will be unlawful and they will specially eat cows and bulls. So what is the unlawful and lawful? Lawful means, so those who eat meat under the religious regulation, just like lawful sex. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, dharma avaruddha kamasmi, sex life which is not illicit according to the regulative principle of Vedic literature, that kind of sex life, Krishna says, I am that. That means that is pious, that is not sinful. Illicit sex life is sinful. But, I mean to say, marriage, that is also one of the functions of religiosity. Just like we perform marriage ceremony under sacrifice, fire sacrifice, mantra. So that is legalized. Similarly, meat eating also, first of all, the first class man, second class man, and third class man means the Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, they were not interested in meat eating. Only the fourth class men and fifth class men, they were allowed, or they were eating meat. Nobody is allowed. But the first class, second class men, they have got sense, they voluntarily give up. But the third class, fourth class, fifth class men, they do not. Up to fourth class, they also abide. From the fifth class men, they are called Panchama, they are very irregular. They don't care for any rules and regulation or any Shastri scripture. They do whatever they like. Fifth class. So, what is legal meat eating? Legal meat eating is that you sacrifice one animal before the goddess deity Kali, goddess Kali, and there are so many rules and regulations. Under regulative principle, one was allowed to eat meat, not that maintain big slaughterhouse and purchase from the butcher's shop and eat meat. This is illegal. Now, sometimes in the Christian, they say the Lord Jesus Christ sometimes ate fish. You know that? But might have done so. One thing is, Christ is powerful. Under certain circumstances, even if he had eaten some fish, that is not fault for him. Tejasāṅ dosaya. The Shastra says, those who are very powerful, if they sometimes do something which is prohibited for common man, that is special case. But even if you accept that Christ ate fish, therefore we shall eat meat and maintain big slaughterhouse, although in the Bible it is clearly said, thou shalt not kill. This is not Christianity. This is against violating the rules and regulations of Christianity. Actually, one should not kill, but under some pressure or under certain condition, if it is needed, that is another thing. But generally, one should not kill. So here it is mentioned that, or are you in great anxiety because henceforward means from that time the Kali Yuga has begun. Since these four principles of unlawful activities, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling and intoxication is freely allowed, that is Kali Yuga. So in this age, in this Kali Yuga, it is very difficult for persons who are interested in self-realization to remain free from sinful activities. It is very difficult. Maya, or the influence of nature, in this age especially, it is very strong, and majority of people therefore addicted to this sinful life, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling and intoxication. But those who are interested in the matter of self-realization, they should voluntarily give up these sinful activities. Then their sacrifices will be stopped. Demigods, they will not give their share. This is another. Formerly, people used to offer big sacrifices. Tons of grains, tons of ghee was being offered in this fire sacrifice, and there was no want. There is no want. If you perform rituals according to the Vedic system, there will be no want. Just like taxpayer, if they avoid tax paying, then this is a crude example, that the government will have no money to manage the state very nicely. One should not avoid tax paying. Similarly, as it is enjoined in the Vedic literature, Jagga Shistasino Santam Uchanti Sarvakilmis. Jagyarthi karmannatra lokayam karma bandhana. Everyone is working very hard. That is called karma jivan. Karmis. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis and Bhaktas. There are 4 classes of men. Karmis means those who are working day and night very hard for getting some material benefit so that he can enjoy sense pleasure. These are called karmis. The karmis also, not only they want to enjoy in this life, next life also they want to go to the heavenly planet. Just like this morning we are talking, the dead body in Egypt and some other places, they keep the body, so that body will go to the heavenly planet and he will enjoy. But clearly it is the bodily concept of life. A sane man will see that the body is lying there. Well, when he has gone to the heavenly planet, if he accepts that the body is there, then something has gone to the heavenly planet, then you will have to accept soul. Otherwise, how you can say that he has gone to heaven or something? No. If you mean he means this body, the body is in the coffin, so how it has gone to heaven? Then you have to accept that the living entity who was within the body, he has gone to heaven. That is reasonable. So that means you have to accept next part. So if you think that he has gone to heaven, then he may go to hell also. Because the soul is departed from the body, now according to his karma, that is right philosophy. That is Vedic philosophy. Krishna says, Dehantara prapti, tatha dehantara prapti. You have to change this body, as you have changed already several times. Similarly, after death, you will also get another body. So this is a fact. The soul is there, and soul is changing the body, and therefore the question of hell and heaven or something else may come. This is sin. Not that the body is going to the heaven. No, this is foolishness. Anyone can, any man with common sense can understand where the body has gone. It is rotting here. So, yajna is required. Human life is meant for performing yajna. Karma, yajna karma samudbhavam. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said, karma means activity. There must be activity. It is not that because we are interested in self-realization, in the elevation of the soul to the spiritual world, that does not mean we shall be idle and lazy. No. You cannot be idle and lazy, because if you become idle and lazy, you cannot even maintain your body. That is advised in Bhagavad Gita. You have to become busy and active. That is required. Even if you want to go to heaven, then also you have to become busy and active. If you want to go back to home, back to garden, that also will require your business and activity. And if you want to remain here in this material world, that also requires. Activity you cannot stop, but we have to consider the quality of activity. Quality of activity is bhakti. You have to work. You cannot remain inactive or lazy. You have to work. So, Krishna advises in the Bhagavad Gita, the work for me, that is intelligence. Jat karosi, jat juhosi, jat asnasi, jat tapassasi, kurusya tad madarpanam. This is life. Jat karosi, whatever you do, everyone has to do something. Krishna says, yes, you have to work, but work for me. Just because Arjuna was advised, he is a military man, he is to fight. His occupation is, when there is danger, he must fight. A Kshatriya. Kshatriya's business is that. So Arjuna was advised that you fight for me, not for your sense gratification. That kind of fight and war is not allowed. Only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord you can fight. So any field of activities, if we act for Krishna, that is called yajña. Yajña means to act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of God, or the Supreme Authority. It's like a good citizen. A good citizen means who is acting exactly to the regulatory laws. He is good citizen. Even an ordinary driving car, if you exactly follow the rules and regulations of traffic transactions, if you stop when there is red light, if you start when there is green light, you don't go to the left, if you follow these rules and regulations, then there is no question of your being a criminal. But as soon as you do not follow, immediately you are criminal. You will get a ticket. Therefore, the regulative life means that is religious life. When you execute your occupational duty just according to the law, there are state laws and there are divine laws also. So actually we should perform the divine law. State law is subordinate. That is legal, otherwise illegal. But unfortunately, the whole state at the present moment, they are also illegal. Therefore, what about the citizen? They are also illegal. And because both of them illegal, these illegal, illegitimate acts are being done. There's so many slaughterhouses are maintained, and people are eating meat illegally and becoming subjected to the sinful life. That is warned here. So, read the purport.
With the progress of the age of Kali, four things particularly, namely the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral or religious principles will gradually diminish.
This is the symptom of Kali Yuga. You have got all practical experience. I know when I first came in New York, one boy, Nelson, he told me that here, even in your front, somebody is being killed, nobody will take care. I was surprised. How is that? Is it a fact? Huh? You say yes?
Yes.
That's it. That is predicted. That the moral or religious principle will gradually diminish. With the progress of this age, only four things particularly, namely duration of life. Duration of life, everyone knows. The actually standard of duration of life in this age is 100 years. But no, who is living 100 years? Gradually, decreasing. And it will decrease so much, as I have several times said, that when at the end of Kali Yuga, or in the middle of Kali Yuga, the duration of life will be 20 to 30 years. Now it is 60, 70 or 50 or it is going on, but gradually it will diminish. That is stated here. And the memory also reduce. Formerly, people were so sharp in memory that once heard from the spiritual master, he will remember, he will not forget. There was no need of books. Book is required because our memory is now, the power of recollection is very poor. Just like one who cannot memorize, he has to take note down. Formerly, 5,000 years ago, there was no need of books. The students will go to the spiritual master, teacher, and therefore it is called Shruti. The Vedic language is called Shruti. Shruti means hearing. It is not reading. Simply, pious students will hear from the right source, evaṁ parampara praptam, evaṁ rajasaya vidu. Simply by hearing, they will understand everything. They will never forget. But in the Kali Yuga, it is not possible. Therefore, Vyasadeva, the whole Vedic understanding, knowledge, he recorded into books. Otherwise, before that, there was no need of books. The power of recollection will diminish. And mercy will reduce. Even in somebody in our front, somebody is killed, nobody will try to help him. What to speak of others when is difficulty? Or there are so many, people should cooperate. There was a very good example of our Krishna conscious man in Melbourne. Here, that was published. There was a fire in one building and they were stranded, they were crying. So our girls went there and saved them. Nobody came. Therefore, it is said, Jasyasti bhakti maghavaty akinchana sarvai gunai tatra samasati sura. If one is God conscious, Krishna conscious, then other material good qualities will automatically develop. These girls in our Melbourne temple, they were not asked by me or the president to go and save them, but out of their goodwill, they went and saved them. And some of the girls jumped from 3 stories and they captured in this, what is called, canopy. So it was published and very much appreciated by the public. So the idea is that one cannot be merciful unless he is a devotee. The so-called mercifulness showed by the philanthropists, humanitarians, that is all false. They are humanitarian, but they maintain slaughterhouse. What is this humanitarian? It does not appeal to you that animals are being killed. So the real fact is that without becoming a devotee of Krishna or God, nobody can be qualified with good attributes. It is not possible. Therefore Shastra says that make people devotee, then automatically all the good qualities will come in. Next.
Since Dharma, or the principles of religion, would be lost in the proportion of 3 out of 4, the symbolic bull was standing on one leg only. When 3/4 of the population of the whole world become irreligious, the situation is converted into hell for the animals. In the age of Kali, godless civilizations will create so many so-called religious societies in which the personality of Godhead will be directly or indirectly defied. And thus, faithful societies of man will make the world uninhabitable for the saner section of people. There are gradations of human beings in terms of the proportionate faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first-class faithful men are the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, then the Kshatriyas, then the Vaishyas, then the Shudras, then the Malechas, the Javanas, and at last the Chandalas. The degradation of human instinct begins from the Malechas, and the Chandala state of life is the last word in human degradation. All the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literatures are never meant for any particular community or birth. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. There is no question of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts, and thus the son of a Vaishnava can become a Malecha, or the son of a Chandala can become more than a Brahmana, all in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord.
Yes. So, if we qualify ourselves as Vaishnava and devotee, then all other good qualities will automatically manifest in the body. That is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, that you accept this movement. For example, there are many examples. This is also one practical example. In your state, the government has spent millions and millions of dollars to stop the intoxication habit, but it was failure. But as soon as the same person comes to Krishna consciousness camp, he immediately gives up. This is practical. And there cannot be any comparison of the qualities of our students with any religious institution or any school, college. You cannot have, because they are devotee. As soon as you become devotee, all good qualities. Therefore, if the government takes this movement seriously, and make everyone a devotee, then everything will be solved. There will be no need of criminal court or jail, or everything will be finished. What is called liquor house and slaughter house and manufacturing cigarette and advertising them to sides of the road. Although it is written that it is dangerous, but still it is highly advertised and people smoke. These contradiction things are going on account of godlessness. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So, another wonderful lecture by Srila Prabhupada. And dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself if you have comments, if you have some takeaways that you would like to express, share, with us. That would be very nice. Questions that you want to ask, we will try our best to, by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, to tackle those questions for everybody's benefit. So please unmute yourself if you want to join in the conversation. This is the conversation time, or Krishna Katha time. Any questions or comments? You can raise your hand or just unmute yourself and start sharing. Okay. Shane, Prabhu, please go ahead. Accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept mine, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just some interesting takeaways from the lecture. How there was no need for books before. The memory was so strong that they didn't even need the books. That was interesting to hear. And how the big thing I took away was how people will argue that Jesus ate fish, but it was a very different time and circumstance, and it definitely doesn't excuse maintaining slaughterhouses today. That's all I had to say. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. There were two very important points. How the mind was very sharp in those times prior to Kali Yuga. And that's why the Vedas itself was called Shruti, the word of God to be heard. So there was no need for books. These people were sharp, their minds were sharp. Everything was announced, talked about, and that was it. In Kurukshetra, the sages who met at Naimisharanya, nobody, they were just listening to what Sutta Goswami was telling. The whole Bhagavatam, as he heard from Shukadeva Goswami, they were listening. 80,000 of them listening. They're just like that. No books to refer to. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions? Please unmute yourself and go for it. All right. While devotees are thinking of their questions, I'll share a few things that came to mind, or I'll put down as notes. Hare Krishna. Yeah, here we go. So it's just a little summary. Symptoms of Kali Yuga. The text itself was about Dharma, talking about the fact that 3 of his 4 legs were destroyed and he's only standing on 1 leg. Srila Prabhupada says symptoms of Kali Yuga. Dharma in the form of a bull had lost 3 legs and now is standing on 1 leg. So the bull is a representative of religion. In Satya Yuga, in the golden age, there's full religion. In Treta Yuga, 1 part is missing. So it's a part that actually, there are 4 ages, so it's 4 parts. And so 1 out of the 4 is missing. And now, so that means irreligion has stepped in, taking 1/4 of how people live normally. Dwapara Yuga, 2 parts are missing. Half of irreligiosity creeps in. And that's so in Treta Yuga. In Dwapara Yuga, 2 parts are missing. So in Satya Yuga is full, Treta Yuga, 1 part missing, Dwapara Yuga, 2 parts missing, and then Kali Yuga, 3 out of the 4 are missing, and even going further and further down. So in Kali Yuga, that's why the bull said 3 of his legs are destroyed, and the only one that's left is truthfulness, which means austerity, cleanliness, and mercy, or not practiced much in Kali Yuga. But Srila Prabhupada talked especially about the unlawful eating of meat. The 4 varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. The Brahmanas, or the teachers, Kshatriyas, or the administrations and military people, Vaishyas, business people, and also cow protection people, they don't eat meat. Voluntarily, they quit eating meat. So Shudras were eating meat, but they were eating under regulation. The 5th class, Mlechas and Yavanas, they're the ones that eat meat without any restriction. So to maintain slaughterhouses and sell meat indiscriminately is not lawful. And that's what's being practiced these days. And that's why there's so much confusion on the planet now. Then, as Shane Prabhu was talking about, one of his takeaways, sometimes he said that Christ ate meat, But that was a special situation, according to need. And that reminds me of, again, morning walk discussion that Srila Prabhupada had with some of his disciples. And then they were talking about, some of the disciples were saying, actually, it was a more type of debate with Srila Prabhupada. So they could just bring up points, and Srila Prabhupada would explain to them what the situation was. And they talked about those Arabs, they were encouraged to eat meat. And Srila Prabhupada said, when there's a situation that is, we have to eat. You have to eat. So if the situation is such that vegetables are not around, then that special situation can be invoked where people will be allowed to eat meat. But even with that, you do not eat the cow. He has made a restriction in the cow because the cow is one of our 7 mothers. The other animals are not in that category of mothers. So he explained that for the Arabs, they were in the desert. And we all know it's only lately that places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, all that, they've got enough money from oil, so they take a desert place and try to develop it into a sense gratification city. But the fact is, if they're developing, before then, there was desert, and in the desert, you cannot grow vegetables then. So then it became necessary to stay alive by then eating meat. So that's a special situation. Actually, Srila Prabhupada quoted the Bible, that the Bible says that Christ ate fish. But yeah, it was in connection to a situation where crowds of people came to hear him. And then they were with him for hours, and then obviously they were hungry. They had to be fed. And that's when Christ pulled that miracle of bread and fish. But if you go into deeper aspects where the Bible is explained, some scholars say that there is really no bread, even though it doesn't concern us so much, no fish was supplied. So it was actually a type of bread called fish bread. And we know we have, oat bread type, we have pumpernickel type bread, and different types of bread even now being sold. So this is myself seeing some parts of the Bible and discussions about it, how it's changed. And there are parts of the Bible, quite a few parts of the Bible that have been changed at this point. I know I'm more than 30 years old. So more than 30 years ago, there was one statement in the Bible about the mark of God being on the foreheads of those who are God conscious, and that they will see his face, because the mark of God is what we wear, which is the tila. But now it's changed. If you go to the current Bibles, go online to search, you will not see the mark of God on the face. You won't see that. It says the name of God, face. So they deliberately have changed it. And we know why, because they don't know what the mark of God looks like, much less try to put it on their face. So the evangelical councils have changed the words there. And that's why the Bibles are actually a version of the real original one. So again, those who are doing research into this, they said Christ never really gave fish. Not fish and bread, but it's called fish bread. It's a type of bread that was broken. Of course, the miracle was that the small amount, he was able to feed the whole and the thousands of people with that small quantity of bread, because he has the Shakti, the mystic perfection, to be able to make things, change things, and also multiply the amount. Everybody in Brahmaloka can do that. Everybody in Brahmaloka, they're born with their ability. So of course, in the earth it's surprising, but in some of the higher planets, they actually can do that. It's not news to them. Anyway, so they come back to this. The Bible, Srila Prabhupada says, thou shalt not kill. So that supports the statement that was made that we made earlier, the researchers disputing how that part says that Christ distributed bread and fish. Anyway, so Kali Yuga is difficult because Maya is very strong. Srila Prabhupada says, those who are interested in self-realization should voluntarily refrain from meat eating. That's why if you come to Krishna consciousness, one of the 4 regulative principles that we live by, don't eat meat, fish, chicken, eggs, don't eat those. Sometimes people ask, well, what about why eggs are also excluded from the diet? Well, it's from the egg that the chicken comes. So basically, you're eating the insides or what will form the chicken by taking an egg. And that's why egg also has been taken out of our diet. That is the reason. So formerly, people used to offer big sacrifices. Demigods would come from their share. And demigods want to control the wants, the needs of people in the material world. So when sacrifices were offered, then demigods got their share. There was no want. They supplied everything. So if you perform according to the Vedic rituals, there will be no want. Krishna says, this is another point to see the Prabhupada. The body, our body has to be changed. The soul changes the body, that is called growth, until death, when a new body is given. And of course, there's also the transitional point of soul going to heaven or hell, or depending on the activities in that life. So as far as activities go, we have to be active whether we want to go to heaven or hell or the spiritual world or even remain on the earth. There's the activities have to be done. So everyone has to work. Since everyone has to work, Krishna says, work for me. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, do all of that as an offering to me. ātmānaṁ. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the case of Arjuna, Krishna asked Arjuna to fight for him. So yajña means to act for the satisfaction of Krishna. So even when we chant, that is our Kali Yuga Yajña. We're chanting to ask to serve Radha and Krishna. If you serve somebody, you satisfy that person. If you serve him nicely, you satisfy that person even more. So when we want to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it involves doing devotional service. That's what it amounts to. And chanting also helps us to remember the divine couple. And remembering makes it possible for us to go back to the spiritual world. Remembering Krishna at the time of death, we transfer to the spiritual world. And the mantra is all about connecting with Hare Krishna, Radha Krishna. Okay. So we should perform laws, but for devotees, especially, we should perform divine laws. Srila Prabhupada said the state laws are subordinate to divine laws. And this is, I'm glad to hear that myself, because not only my takeaway, but it's something I've pondered about for a long time. State laws, and then divine laws, and which one should we obey? And now Srila Prabhupada said, unfortunately, some of the state laws are also illegal. So, and then he asked Nitai Prabhu to read a part in which he said, the progress of Kali Yuga, with that progress, duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral and religious principles are gradually being minimized. So, Prabhupada explained, before this age, Kali Yuga, there was no need for books. One point that Shane also brought up. Vedas was literally called Shruti, the word of God, but that which is heard. Shruti means to hear. The memory was sharp then, so it was just a question of just hearing, and books weren't necessary. So, also as far as mercy goes, he gave an example about that. Where there's difficulty, people are in difficulty. Other people don't care to help. That reminds me of one situation. It was very, very bad. I wasn't a devotee at the time, but my girlfriend, he had a sister who was living in a different building, just maybe a quarter mile from where she was living. And her sister explained that there was a situation. There was one person in the building who they knew was a killer. And one woman made him upset. And he said that I'm going to mess you up and take your life. And so people were afraid. But to call the police, they wouldn't do that either because the relatives of that man would kill anybody that called the police. So it was just a terrible situation that they found themselves in. And that man made good on his threat to kill that woman. And what was very bad about it is that at the time, it was just in the hallway. There was a building, about 5-story building. The hallway, I mean, not the hallway, the steps, the staircase down. The man traps this woman and starts stabbing her. And she was screaming loudly. Nobody called the police. Nobody came out to help. And that man killed the woman. And then people are afraid because if you call the police, as I said, the relatives of that person who are also criminals, they come after you. And you call the police and the police comes, the first person they look for is who called me. So you have to come and identify yourself, and then the police will ask you why you called and you explain the situation. So if you have to identify yourself, then the relatives of that killer will see who called the police, and then they'll come after that person that called the police. So then everybody was scared. Very bad. This was in Boston, Massachusetts. At that time, I was in graduate school. Anyway, so there's no mercy. There's no mercy. So for devotees, very, very important people, Papa made this point. Those who become devotees, they automatically develop good qualities by practicing bhakti. Just like the example that Srila Prabhupada gave, that some of our female-bodied devotees saved some people who were trapped in the building by fire. Nobody else wanted to go, but they did it out of their good hearts. And even later on, when the fire got bad, they had to jump out of windows themselves. So if we qualify ourselves as devotees or Vaishnavas, then all good qualities will be developed. And he made another point about intoxication. The state government has spent millions of dollars to try to stop intoxication. But when one comes to Krishna consciousness, they immediately stop themselves, that habit. So government has tried it, it's been a failure. I know in Chicago, when the head of the police came to see Srila Prabhupada was visiting there, and he was asking about the situation here because he had seen that people who were drug addicts had now become clean. And so they came to see the leader, who was Srila Prabhupada, to get some pointers as to what to do to help stop drug addiction and so on. The Srila Prabhupada says, just give us a building and enough money to make prashadam for people and just invite them to come to the building, a large building, and we will help them by, teaching them how to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and then have prashadam, eat, dance, and have prashadam, and this problem will go away. And so the police chief that came, he says, well, I have to inform the politicians about it. Basically, he backed off, and he didn't inform anybody. Nothing was done. And of course, the drug issue has not left. It's still there. So this is the power of Krishna consciousness. You live much more peacefully if you become Krishna conscious and obey the regulative principles. You see, people are living life different from the way devotees are living life. But over time, the wisdom kicks in, and you'll see that we are actually living a much better life than them because we're living a peaceful life. We don't do intoxication, therefore our bodies are not harmed by alcohol. We do not gamble, so we don't stand any chance of losing money from gambling, because that's what happened to the overwhelming majority of people who gamble. They lose. Very few people gain. And of course, illicit sex, nobody has to worry about sexually transmitted diseases or a child that they didn't want and the wife gets pregnant. All of that doesn't happen. So it is peaceful. It's a very peaceful life, just even on the material level, to obey regulated principles. So Srila Prabhupada has given us a gift in this crazy world now that we can be relatively peaceful. Hare Krishna. Any final comments or questions? If not, then thank you very much for coming on today. We benefit tremendously. We hear Srila Prabhupada preach. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Panchakalpatarubhischa kripa sindhibhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you again. Oh, there was something in the chat, so let me just look and see. Okay, that's Nupumataji saying.